Hello everyone, I'm Inverse, and welcome to the second Company of Heroes 2 first-person video. Today I'll be showing you guys an Ostheer game, and I will be playing through the Tier 1, Tier 2 strategy that I recently talked about in my first Company of Heroes 2 StratTalk video. This is a game against a Soviet player, as you can see, named a Burning Dog. And before we get into the actual game itself, I just want to go over a few minor housekeeping items. First of all, for those of you who have been commenting in the comments of the last first-person video about the quality of the graphics, I just want to let you guys know that I play Company of Heroes 2 on minimum settings in order to give myself the best performance possible, while at the same time reducing visual clutter from fancy graphical effects and stuff like that. With that in mind, do not take the graphical quality of my first-person videos to be representative at all of the graphical quality of Company of Heroes 2. If you want to take a look at how the beta looks graphically right now, I highly suggest you check out my StratTalk videos, since in those I am recording on maximum settings, and you'll get a better idea. Though it is, of course, still beta, you will get a bit better of an idea, of course, of what the game itself actually can look like. Secondly, I want to apologize for background noise and anything like that. I use a desktop mic, and for that reason it's difficult for me to reduce and eliminate background noise. I should have things a little bit better in this video. However, do keep in mind that it is simply how I play, and I am trying to show you guys the best games I possibly can, rather than simply showing you guys a player going through the motions. I want to give you guys an idea of decently high-level play, and in order to do that, I feel most comfortable playing the game in a way that allows me to do that. If that's something that makes it difficult for you to watch, or if you just can't get over the hump of actually dealing with some of the things I do, then I apologize, and I strongly recommend you check out instead my StratTalk videos, since every strategy that I execute in my first-person videos I will also be going through in my StratTalk videos. So if that's something that bugs you too much, check out the StratTalk videos. You'll get the same information, it'll just be in a different format. Now with that out of the way, let's jump into this game. If you have been watching my StratTalk videos, you'll know generally what I'm going to be doing. It is an extended Tier 1, and what I mean by that is I'm going to be building a lot of Tier 1 units. I'm going to get ultimately 3 Grenadiers, pardon me, 2 machine guns, a mortar, and potentially a sniper. We'll see about that last part. And then I'll tech into Tier 2 and start pumping out Panzer Grenadiers and packs to deal with my anti-tank. Now, as you'll notice, this is slightly different from some other builds that focus a lot on fuel in the early game. If you'll notice, I am actually not sending units down here or up here straight away to cap those fuel points. That is not a priority for me in this strategy. I'd much rather get map control and munitions income, because I'm not teching up all that much. I'm teching to Tier 2, and then I'm building my Tier 2 unit. After those tech expenditures, almost everything I'll be investing in is manpower related, and it's something that I'm not necessarily going to say is the best or most optimal strategy for Ostheer, but a prime reason for me going this route is the fact that the Stug in the very recent patch costs a lot of fuel. That entire tier now, Ostheer Tier 3, is extremely expensive in terms of fuel, and it can be difficult against good players to secure enough fuel to get both AT and enough anti-infantry to actually deal with what your opponent could potentially be doing. Now, hopefully I'll be able to cap this. Yes, he should have ran in and decapped that himself, but that's okay. That's primarily, excuse me, primarily good for me because it will delay my opponent a little bit. I'm going to jump in this building right here as well as my second Gren squad comes up to support. I also have an MG coming right here, so I'm going to send him into the middle. Are you jumping in there? You should be jumping in there. You're going to have to retreat. Hopefully I don't lose you. I shouldn't lose you though. You might though. We'll see. Anyways, I'm going to back up a little bit and wait for my MG to get into the middle here. I'm spending my first 60 fuel on a flamethrower. I'm going to be spending my second 60 fuel on a upgrade. And it'll be the heal upgrade for the Ostheer faction, which is extremely useful in the early game. Which I'm probably going to do now. He has a flamer. I wonder is he going to try and... There. I probably... Where'd my flamer go? He's going to get out. And I'm going to retreat. Whoops. And that was a little late, but that's okay. I'm going to head down here. Actually, he has a conscript right there. So I'm going to... Oops. What do you have there? What do you have there? Alright, so we're going to jump in. This is a fairly standard conscript spam from my opponent right now. And he's doing a good job of capping a lot of the map, of course. But... Oops. Ah! I was set up and then I screwed it up. Where are you? Where are you? I should be okay. The problem with Ura is that if I manage to catch my opponent, he is in a world of hurt because he can't actually... Ura is similar in some senses. Did I build? I built another... That's what I did. I built another Pioneer squad. That was a mistake. Oh well, we'll be okay. Ura is... Let me jump over there. Is similar in some sense to the fire-up ability that Elite Infantry, American Elite Infantry had in Vanilla Company of Heroes. However, a big difference is the... Okay, that's my second MG. A big difference is the lack of suppression reduction. In Vanilla Company of Heroes, the units that had the ability to fire up could also dodge suppression with it. That's not the case in Company of Heroes 2. And in the early game, spending resources on fire up, or Ura I suppose it would be called, instead of spending them on flamethrowers and stuff like that can be a little bit risky. Am I going to be able to catch him? I should be able to catch him. He's going to throw a Molotov though, so I'm going to move out of the way there. You can tell because the unit very abruptly stops. Now I'm just going to be able to reposition. I'm going to go Jaeger Infantry. The main reason for that is I don't need anything that's going to... excuse me. I don't need anything that's going to require me to tech up. He's going to retreat now because he flanked decently. I need that upgrade. I also need another Volk squad, or a Gren squad rather. And right now I'm just trying to leverage my high unit count to cap as much of the map as possible. That's a big thing you need to try and focus on with this strategy, is capping around as much as you can, because the best way to deal with your opponent's tech is to delay that tech as much as possible. I think he's throwing... Is he throwing a... Yep, he's going to throw a Molotov, and hotkeys aren't working, so that's annoying, but that's okay. We'll be able to get out of there, and I've still got a decent amount of map control. Let's get me my mortar now. I've got my third Gren squad on the field here, so I'll be set now. You'll notice I have a lot of map control despite my opponent's investment in early game and investment in conscripts. He went for probably 4 conscripts with Molotovs, which is expensive, and excuse me, it is expensive. It's one way. And it's putting a lot in an early game that could or could not pan out. And because I've overinvested in my tier 1, I've been able to deal fairly easily with my opponent's aggression, because my opponents had to... My opponent invested in the early game hoping to get damage done with that investment in the early game, and he hasn't really gotten anything productive done. In all honesty, he flanked me a little bit in the early game. He had decent map control in the early game, but if you'll notice right now, I actually have a lot of the map. I'm in a good position defensively, and I'm going to have to run away from that, but that's okay. You should go in fire. And with this first blizzard, I'm able to take a little bit more advantage of this. I didn't notice you there. I'm able to take a decent amount of advantage of this little bit of resource and map control advantage that I do have, and sit back and take in a bit of the resources and get myself set up more into the mid game. And primarily, I'm denying my opponent a lot of fuel. He's just now capping that bottom fuel point back, and that's going to delay his T-34s substantially, which is a big thing that I'm worried about. We also noticed he went tier 1 for guards, which is not necessarily a super important piece of information, but it's definitely something to keep in mind, because it means probably no mortars, definitely no AT guns for a little while, and though that doesn't really impact what I'm doing right now, it could have a bearing a little bit later. Primarily on knowing what my opponent could potentially be doing, which is always important. Now we see a scout car right there, which is something that I am absolutely prepared for in this situation. I have a lot of Grenadiers, and Grenadiers are the ideal counter really to scout cars. I'm going to try and get a Faust off, but we'll see if I'll actually be able to. So I'm going to go over here. Got one off right there. I'm going to try and move in with my other two. He threw a Molotov, but I'll be able to walk out of that. I'm going to take a little bit of damage. Okay. I'm going to run up and try my best to get a second Faust off. These guys have had to run away, so I'm going to get that MG out of that building. And I'm going to cap down at the bottom there. Did I kill him? No, I haven't killed him yet. Ah, focus fire, focus fire. There we go. He should be dead almost. There we go. Scout cars for Soviets really aren't all that excellent. They can be good, but they're more good very early in the game. And what that scout car showed me is the fact that I don't need a pack right away. The fact that my opponent invested some fuel and a decent amount of time, and of course the manpower as well, into that unit means I can fairly easily get a Panzer Grenadier before I get my pack out, because he's not going to have a T-34 for a little while now. Combined with like that, the fact that my opponent went for that tier 1 unit, combined with the fact that my opponent was also unable to secure a lot of his fuel in that early game, means I'm in a really good spot right now in terms of what my opponent can tech to and what I can do to respond to him. I've got all my map control back. That was his big, strong attack, and he didn't do nearly as much damage as he definitely wanted to with it. So, I can use that to my advantage, of course. Ooh, I might lose that squad. Yes, I'll probably lose that squad. That's okay, though. Come on here. He's going to throw a Molotov. I'll run through him. I should have my... Yep. That squad right there. So I've got my... Where? You come up there. I have another MG somewhere. Oh, you shouldn't move. You should stand still. And my opponent has a mortar, in fact. But that's okay. I'll be able to run in. And I maintain most of my map control. And my opponent hasn't really been using hit the dirt or anything like that, which is something I can, of course, also use to my advantage. I'm gonna get two Panzer Grenadier squads before I get my pack out as well. And this is just gonna make my infantry. Oh, there's the MG. I knew he was around here somewhere. That is the problem with not having a completely functional tactical map right now, is I am completely lost a lot of the time when it comes to finding where my units are. It's slightly frustrating, but what can you expect? Anyways, this is a slight mistake on my opponent. I'm going to be able to get a decent amount of damage in on this mortar if he doesn't realize it. And even if he does realize it, he's going to set up interesting. Now, smart of him. I've got my mortar. I have all my map control once again. And at this point, it's just a excuse me. It's just a matter of making sure I cross my T's and dot my I's, making sure my opponent can't catch me off guard with anything, and that primarily means vehicles of some sort. I want to be worried, I want to be careful, and I want to be attentive of what my opponent can do in terms of vehicle aggression. So, I'm going to be focusing next on, let's throw a grenade there. I'm going to be focusing next on AT as much as possible, and I'll be getting a pack just to make sure I can defend as best as I want to. And I'll be pushing forward a little bit more in the middle, capping around, making sure these squads back at my base are reinforced. That's a big thing that a lot of players, because Company of Heroes, while similar in a lot of ways to other RTS games, is different in a lot of other ways. And one of those, of course, is reinforcing squads and stuff like that. But that is the end of that game. Another quick one. I apologize for the quickness of these videos. I will hopefully be getting some better opponents later on, and I will record some longer games. But until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.